they decided to take it to the next level, and they got us into the VIP section where Jerry Jones, who's the owner of the team, and all of the players' wives hang out in their fur coats, sipping off free cocktails all day. And I'm like in there with ripped jeans and like no makeup. And I'm like, I really do not belong here right now. My name is Misty Mathis. I'm 43 and I live in Texas. I live in a little town called McKinney. It's like a historic district, so the houses around here are very old, from the late 1800s, and it's just a really beautiful, picturesque, old American town in Texas, and I love it. I'm also from a place that just happens to have a lot of spiritual people around there, and my friend has an 1,000-acre equestrian rescue that we go to a lot. The horses just roam free. It's a magical place. I had been doing a women's retreat, and the exercises we were doing that day, I had just broken up with my boyfriend recently, and I had a lot of like emotion stirring up in me, and I was really just felt like I needed to get away from everybody. And I walked out into the pasture by myself, and I just started crying. And I was just releasing all of this emotion. And I looked over, and this horse was about 100 feet away, and he perked up and he saw me crying, and he just walked towards me, and he came all the way across the pasture, and he came up to me and put his head against my forehead and just rested it there while I cried for about a good 10-15 minutes, and stayed with me, and just I felt like everything was going to be okay. And so at this really cool place, they do horse therapy where you could come and interact with the horses. They really like bring up the energy that needs to be cleared, or if you're grieving or something you need to let go of it. As soon as you get in the presence of this big, majestic beast, it just kind of opens you up and helps you to release what it is that you're hanging on to. And it's a really cool place. It's very special to me, and it's Dove Creek Equine Rescue, and it's just outside of Amarillo in North Texas. I really like to keep things light and joyful. I want people to have more fun and to feel better. I feel like we're all into this together. I feel like we do have a purpose, just from the things that I've seen in my practice, and I have special abilities that I've had since I was a child that kind of allow me to see outside the spectrum. And so I see a higher purpose for everybody, and what I try to help is encourage that and encourage people to feel better about their life's mission and being here, and not just feel like you're spinning out of control without any purpose or joy in your life. Stay in your own lane, manage your own energy, just mind your own business. That's the best thing that I can tell people, because we tend to leak out our energy to other people all the time. Think about it as an energy bank. Like, you have all this energy in your bank, and every time somebody comes up to you with something, you give them $100 out of your bank. And so you can then discern, okay, do I want to give them money out of my bank? Or do I just want to try to, do something different right now, so I'm not in this energy field, and I'm not going to allow myself to get like pulled down or pulled off of my center. The Super Bowl, I had a friend that got a ticket, and this was like my extended family. My boyfriend at the time was really into football, and he was also an actor, and him and his friend were very used to schmoozing to get in places, and their whole thing was just, act like you're supposed to be there. If you act like you're supposed to be there, they are going to let you in. And so only 2 of us had tickets, and there were 3 of us trying to get in without tickets. I went in behind 2 ladies that had tickets, and one of the ladies just dropped the ticket on the floor, and I picked it up and I used that to get in. Yes, that worked. I mean, they kind of questioned it for a second, and then as I'm walking by, this man is flagging me over, and I look over, and my boyfriend is flagging me over, and I come over, I'm like, hey honey, and he's like, don't call me honey. And I was like, what? And he's like, I need to get my insulin shot. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. And I just kind of went with whatever story he had fabricated about having to run back out to his wife who was tailgating. So he got in, and his third friend pretended he was lost going to the bathroom and just had to be there. So he got in. Not only did we get in the door, once we got in, they decided to take it to the next level, and they got us into the VIP section where Jerry Jones, who's the owner of the team, and all of the players' wives hang out in their fur coats, sipping off free cocktails all day. And I'm like in there with ripped jeans and like no makeup. And I'm like, I really do not belong here right now. So I grew up in, the panhandle of Texas, in a small town, and the neighborhood that I grew up in the 80s there were very, very few people of any kind of mixed race. And as a little girl, I remember being very tan in the summertime and being at the lake, and this little girl she was just curious. She walked up to me and she looked up at me and she goes, "Are you black?" And I was like, "No." And it was an interesting feeling. I remember that feeling of feeling like I was different, or feeling like I looked different, or maybe it was just from feeling my mom's insecurities, because I feel like she really struggled with it as well, and just having a really thick accent and not really like knowing the lingo or how to really be able to associate with this culture. It's like fish out of water, really. And I guess back then it was just a lack of, I think, understanding. And for the kids that did ever make me feel out of sorts, it was just they didn't know any better. It's just an old way of thinking. I really look up to my grandmother and the way that she handled her husband's murder, and that she, instead of being bitter, was able to persevere and be joyful and create more in her life that was about her and her self-care. She didn't let these circumstances affect her ability to be happy. She continued to do what it is that she loved to do, and then some and more. She really took advantage of the freedom of being who she is. And I think that's a beautiful gift. And when people can transform through their grief and take that love in your heart that you have for that person and just share that with others, because you feel like they're more precious now. When someone is ripped from you, you really understand that everyone around you is precious, and we have to, show appreciation and gratitude and be there for each other, and get out behind our phones more and give yourselves a big hug. It's hard out there.